Welcome, welcome one and all to Howl-O-Ween! A-woo! Hello, friends. Once again, it is the spooky season. And so, for the month of October, I offer you Howl-O-Ween, where we look at classic horror pictures. Now, last year I covered the main monsters and their movies, so this year I thought we'd broaden our scope a bit and look at some other movies perfect for Halloween viewing. When it comes to the heroes of Halloween, we all know the big names, right? Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr., Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, Vincent Price. But there were others who were there at the dawn of horror movies, people we don't necessarily think of right off when we think of classic horror pictures. Yet, without them, our movie choices would be far poorer at Halloween. This time, I'm going to introduce you to 3 Halloween heroes, and all 3 heroes appear in one of the pictures we'll discuss. That picture? The Vampire Bat from 1933. Now, on the surface, this little spooker is about a bunch of murders in a superstitious European village, and the locals think it's a vampire. Okay, but what's so great about it? Well, it stars our first hero, Lionel Atwill. Atwill was a brilliant actor, had a Shakespearean flair and a voice to match. That voice of his is definitely one of the great voices in all of Hollywood history. Atwill was a natural for horror pictures. He specialized in playing menacing, erudite heavies, military officers, mad scientists, and once he even played Professor Moriarty against Basil Rathbone in Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Weapon. Atwill was actually a pretty big star, but in 1943 he got caught up in a morals scandal. See, he'd throw these wild parties at his home, some of which featured blue movies and mega group makeout sessions. If you know what I mean. And when word of this got out and was reported in the papers, Atwill was dropped by the studios like a hot potato, and he wound up working on Poverty Row, the small, cheap studios like Monogram and PRC. Oh, sometimes Universal would still hire him, but his career was pretty much over. He died in 1946 while working as a villain in a movie serial called Lost City of the Jungle. He was very ill at the time, and in spite of that, he did all the scenes he could, but he's not as front and center as he would have been otherwise. Atwill and Rathbone are also in The Son of Frankenstein, the third Boris Karloff one, and probably the last really good entry in the series. Atwill is unforgettable as a one-armed ex-military officer, now the local chief of police. He was in a few of the other Frankenstein movies, House of Dracula, Mark of the Vampire with Bela Lugosi, Man-Made Monster with Lon Chaney Jr., and a whole bunch of stuff. He also appears in one of my favorites, a low-budget picture called The Gorilla from 1939. This starred the Ritz brothers and was about a serial killer who kills people, gorilla fashion, I guess. This one also has Bela Lugosi and Patsy Kelly as servants in Atwill's house. It's a real hoot. So Atwill was definitely a hero of Halloween, and he appears in The Vampire Bat. Here, Atwill plays a doctor assisting the police who are investigating some weird murders where local people are found drained of blood, Dracula style. He also has this weird hypnotic power mixed with telepathy. Besides Lionel Atwill, this movie also features the second hero of Halloween on this list, namely Dwight Frye. Here, he's basically reprising his most famous role, Renfield from the 1931 Dracula. He's pretty much playing his character the exact same way he played Renfield. But there was more to Frye than Renfield. He also appears in the original Frankenstein as Otto, the type of character we think of as Igor, Dr. Frankenstein's assistant. He's in The Bride of Frankenstein, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and he also played the Gunzel Wilmer in the original version of the Maltese Falcon from 1931, 10 years before Elijah Cook Jr. did in the much more famous Humphrey Bogart film. And get this, the same year that Dracula came out, 1931, he also appeared in an early Charlie Chan film called The Black Camel. That picture also featured Bela Lugosi in a non-horror role, but as a sort of continental ladies' man, the type of role Lugosi would have preferred to play. The two even have a scene together toward the end of the movie. Fascinating to watch the pair of them in a non-horror outing. But such roles were rare for Frye after Dracula. Frye was instantly typecast thanks to his brilliant turn as Renfield, and he never got the better parts he was certainly capable of. Sadly, Frye died way too young of a heart attack in 1943. He was only 45 years old. Definitely a hero of Halloween. And third on our list, none other than the Luminous Fey Ray. That's right, the beauty that killed the beast in her most famous role from King Kong, which came out that same year, 1933, as the Vampire Bat. Here, she plays Atwill's niece. But what other horror cred does Fey Ray have, you ask? Well, in 1934, she was in Black Moon, a movie about voodoo. And in 1935, she was in The Clairvoyant with Claude Rains, who finds he can chillingly predict the future. She also starred with Atwill in at least 2 other pictures, both classic horror movies that go under the radar at Halloween. One, again, also from 1933, is Mystery of the Wax Museum. The other is a big favorite of mine from 1932. It's Dr. X. Both of these films were made in the 2-strip Technicolor process and were phenomenal classic horror pictures. Warner Archive has given both a loving restoration that you can get on Blu-ray. They've never looked better. Wax Museum is about a series of murders where a weird but brilliant wax sculptor, played by Atwill, turns his victims into wax mannequins. Fey Ray becomes the guy's latest obsession. Can't blame him there. In Dr. X, Ray plays Atwill's daughter. Atwill runs a medical research academy, and the professors there are all weirdos. There's a lunatic murdering people, and the crimes all point to a staff member of this academy being the killer. Fast-talking reporter Lee Tracy is on the case and tries to get into Fey's good graces so he can get the story. I just love this picture. It's so weird. Like, Fey Ray, the first time we see her, she walks into a room and lets out a scream. Pretty much for no reason. It was all a way just to set the scene for the spooky horror to follow, I guess. Oh, it's great. The sets, laboratories, and the weird professors all enhance the story. And Dr. X is a great example of the two-strip Technicolor process. If you love classic horror, and you've not seen either Dr. X or Mystery of the Wax Museum, just trust me, buy them blind, and you won't regret it. They're great. They also made a sequel to Dr. X that isn't a sequel at all. They just used the name, pretty much. In the Return of Dr. X, Humphrey Bogart stars in a horror role as a weird doctor who needs blood transfusions to survive a rare medical condition. It's weird, and Bogart's makeup is weird, and even Bogart didn't know what to make of that one. So this is worth a watch, though. And hey, the Vampire Bat also features this guy, Lionel Belmore, as the Burgermeister, the town mayor. He basically played the same role in Frankenstein, so he'll be very familiar when you see him. Plus, they shot several scenes for the Vampire Bat on Universal's European Village set, where they made Frankenstein and a whole host of other classic movies. Atwill, Frye, and Ray. 3 unsung heroes of Halloween, and they all appear together in the Vampire Bat. It's perhaps a lighter weight fare than the other horror pictures I've mentioned. A bit dry, maybe. You have to scout around for a good print, but it's still an interesting curio and a great movie to put you in the mood for Halloween horror. You can watch a video I made about the origin of the jack-o'-lantern here. And down here, you can check out last year's Howl-O-Ween offerings. Join me next time as Howl-O-Ween continue.